Last week, I started making a small roguelike game as a learning experience for making games for the Playdate, a new handheld game system coming out soon. I got a simple movement and attack system worked out, along with one enemy, the skeleton. This week, my plan was to finish up the game with new classes, special abilities, and new enemy types. Let's see how it went. First thing I did was to double the tile size. The Playdate is a lot smaller than you think, about the size of a stack of post-it notes, so it would have been too small to see clearly. I then made the character art for 6 different class types: the Knight, the Ranger, the Priest, the Defender, the Rogue, and the Wizard. Each class would have their own special ability. I created a character selection screen in the main menu, which allows you to cycle between the different class types. Right after that, I made it so that the name would show up underneath as well. Selecting a class didn't do anything yet, so I started off by making it so that when you select a class, it would load the character into the game. I made it so that you can adjust the health values. So for example, the Defender has 5 hearts instead of the Rogue's 3. Next, I started on the ability system. I added a UI element as well as a counter that shows up whenever you use an ability. It works as a cooldown, so X number of turns have to pass before you can use the ability again. I got started working on the different abilities for all the classes. I started with just implementing it without any animations, which would come later. The Knight has Heavy Swing, which damages all surrounding enemies. The Ranger has Piercing Shot, which damages all enemies in a cross-shaped pattern. The Priest has Blessing, which heals you for 1 heart and makes you invincible for 1 turn. The Defender has Intimidate, which stuns all enemies for 1 turn. The Rogue has Preparation, which makes your next attack insta-kill the enemy. And lastly, the Wizard has Meteor Strike, which damages all enemies on the screen. I can adjust the cooldown to balance the abilities, but honestly they're not balanced that well, so there are probably some classes better than others. There's no level progression yet, so I added that in. It shows which level you're currently on, and you move on to the next level whenever you defeat all the enemies in the room. To make combat more interesting, I added in new enemy types. First is the Ghost. It can move 2 spaces every turn, which makes it pretty dangerous, but it only has 1 health. Next is the Orc. It moves every other turn, but has more health and does more damage. Lastly is the Spider. It has the ability to cut down trees. I made it so that in the early levels, only skeletons would spawn. But as the game goes on, more of the different enemy types would be added in. I also added a lose screen, as well as a win condition when you get past floor 20. Next step was to add a coat of polish. I created a screen shake effect when you attack and cut down trees. I then added animations to the abilities. For the Knight, I made the sword swing around you. For the Ranger, I made arrows shoot out from all 4 sides. For the Priest, I just inverted the sprite to show that you're invincible. For the Defender, I just added some screen shake. For the Rogue, I inverted the sprite as well to show that your next attack is empowered. And lastly, for the Wizard, I just used some screen shake again. It looked okay, but I think with sound effects it would really come together. So that's exactly what I did. Let's check it out. I added a swinging sword sound, arrows firing out, a healing noise, whatever this is, this sort of string plucking noise, and an explosion sound, along with a bunch of other stuff like sound effects for movement and attacking. I thought this was a great first project to get familiar with developing for the Playdate, and if I gave myself more time, I would probably add better pathfinding and also a shop with items. With these projects, I'm using them more as a learning experience, so I have no intentions of making this a commercial release. But I'm launching a Patreon today, and as a thank you to my supporters, you can download the game. Higher tier supporters can get access to the source code as well. I plan on making a small Playdate game every month, so I'm hoping to provide some value through that. These types of videos take about 15 to 20 hours a week to make, and the tutorials take around the same time as well. So if you enjoy my content and want to support the creation of it, it would mean a lot. Of course, I'll keep uploading these devlogs and my tutorials for free for everyone to enjoy, so subscribe to see more. Thanks, and see you next time.